The morning sun cast long shadows across Fort Braxton as Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez stepped out of the transport vehicle. Her uniform was crisp, her posture straight, but her heart hammered against her ribs. This was her chance to prove herself. At one of the most prestigious military bases in North Carolina. Maria had already served 6 years in the Army, but she had never been assigned to a base quite like this one. Fort Braxton was known for producing the finest marksmen in the military. It was also known for something else: its old-fashioned attitudes toward women in combat roles. As she walked toward the main building, Maria noticed the stares. Some were curious, others dismissive. She had grown used to being one of the few women in her field, but something about this place felt different, heavier. "You must be Rodriguez," a gruff voice called out behind her. Maria turned to see a tall, broad-shouldered man approaching. His name tag read Sergeant Major Williams, and his weathered face wore an expression that seemed permanently set to skeptical. "Yes, sir," Maria replied, snapping to attention. Williams looked her up and down, slowly, making no effort to hide his doubt. "I've seen your file. Impressive scores at your last base. But let me tell you something, Rodriguez. This isn't some basic training facility. We deal with real combat situations here. Life and death decisions." "I understand, sir," Maria said, keeping her voice steady despite the condescending tone. Williams stepped closer. "Because I've seen plenty of soldiers come through here thinking they're ready for the big leagues. Most of them wash out within the first month. And frankly, I've never seen a woman make it through our advanced sniper program." Maria felt a familiar fire building in her chest, but she kept her expression neutral. "I'm here to serve and learn, sir, whatever it takes." Williams snorted. "We'll see about that. Report to Corporal Jackson at 0600 tomorrow. He'll show you what real shooting looks like." As Williams walked away, Maria allowed herself a small smile. She had heard these doubts before, at every base, in every unit. But she also knew something that Williams didn't. She had been shooting since she was 5 years old, taught by her father, who had been a Marine sniper in Vietnam. The rest of the day was spent getting settled into her barracks and meeting her fellow soldiers. The reactions were predictably mixed. Some welcomed her with professional courtesy, while others made their skepticism clear through sideways glances and whispered comments. Her bunkmate, Private Lisa Thompson, was friendly enough. "Don't let them get to you," Lisa said as they unpacked their gear. "Williams is tough on everyone, but he's especially hard on women. Says we're too emotional for precision work." "What do you think?" Maria asked. Lisa shrugged. "I think anyone who can handle an M24 sniper rifle and hit a target at 800 meters deserves respect, regardless of what's between their legs." That evening Maria lay in her narrow bunk, staring at the ceiling. She thought about her father, who had passed away 2 years earlier. He had always told her that the best shooters weren't just technically skilled, they had to have heart, patience, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. "Mia," he used to say in his mixture of English and Spanish, "shooting isn't about power or anger. It's about breathing, focusing, and trusting yourself. The moment you doubt yourself, you've already missed." She closed her eyes and pictured the shooting range at her childhood home in Texas, her father standing behind her, his gentle hands adjusting her stance, his calm voice guiding her through each shot. Those memories had carried her through every challenge in her military career so far. Tomorrow would be different, though. Tomorrow she would face Corporal Jackson and whatever test Williams had designed for her. She had no doubt it would be meant to humble her, maybe even embarrass her in front of the other soldiers. But Maria Rodriguez had never backed down from a challenge in her life. She had grown up the daughter of a single father in a tough neighborhood, fought her way through high school, put herself through 2 years of college before enlisting, and earned her stripes through sheer determination and skill. That as she drifted off to sleep, her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Remember, Mia, they can doubt your strength, question your courage, even mock your dreams, but they can't argue with a perfect shot." Maria smiled in the darkness. Tomorrow she would show Fort Braxton exactly what Maria Rodriguez was made of. She would show them that underestimating her was the biggest mistake they could make. The base grew quiet around her, but her resolve only grew stronger. This was her moment, her chance to prove that she belonged among the best marksmen in the militarily, and she had no intention of wasting it. The next morning arrived with a sharp blast of reveille at 0530. Maria was already awake, having risen at 0500 to prepare mentally for whatever lay ahead. She dressed carefully, ensuring every detail of her uniform was perfect, and made her way to the designated meeting point. Corporal David Jackson was waiting for her at the armory, along with a small group of soldiers who had apparently gathered to watch the show. Jackson was younger than Williams, probably in his early 30s, with the lean build of a career marksman. His expression was neutral, but his eyes held a glint of amusement. "Rodriguez," he said with a nod, "ready for your evaluation?" "Yeah, Corporal," Maria replied. Jackson gestured to the other soldiers. "These gentlemen wanted to observe your shooting assessment. Hope you don't mind an audience." Maria looked at the faces around her. Some seemed genuinely curious, but others wore smirks that made their expectations clear. Among them was Private Mike Peterson, a cocky 22-year-old who had made several dismissive comments about female soldiers the day before. "Not at all," Corporal Maria said. "Good." Jackson picked up a clipboard. "Now, I've looked over your scores from Fort Campbell. Pretty impressive numbers for a standard range. But today we're going to test you on our course. It's a bit more challenging." He led the group outside to a shooting range that was unlike anything Maria had seen before. Instead of simple stationary targets, this range featured multiple levels, moving targets, and obstacles that would require shots from various positions and angles. "This is our advanced combat marksmanship course," Jackson explained. "It simulates real battlefield conditions. You'll have to hit targets at ranges from 200 to 1,000 meters, some stationary, some moving, all while dealing with time pressure and environmental factors." Peterson let out a low whistle. "Most guys need weeks of practice before they can even hit half the targets on this course." "Is that so?" Maria asked, her voice calm. "Oh yeah," Peterson grinned. "Last woman who tried this couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Course, maybe you'll do better. You look like you might have steadier hands." The condescension in his tone was unmistakable, and Maria felt that familiar fire building again, but her father's training kicked in. "Stay calm, breathe, focus." Jackson handed her an M24 sniper rifle. "You'll have 30 minutes to complete the course. Each target has different point values based on difficulty. Minimum passing score is 75 out of 100. Maria accepted the rifle, feeling its familiar weight in her hands. She had trained with M24s before, though not extensively. She ran her hands along the weapon, checking the scope, testing the trigger pull, getting a feel for its balance. "Take your time to familiarize yourself," Jackson said, but his tone suggested he didn't think it would help much. "I'm ready," Maria said after just 2 minutes of inspection. Peterson laughed. "Ready? You barely looked at it. This isn't some hunting rifle, sweetheart. This is precision military equipment." "I understand what it is," Maria replied evenly. Jackson shrugged. "Your call. First target is the standard 200-meter stationary. Should be easy enough." The group moved to the first shooting position. Maria could feel their eyes on her as she settled into prone position, adjusting the rifle against her shoulder. She looked through the scope at the distant target, a standard military silhouette. "Whenever you're ready," Jackson said. Maria took a deep breath, just as her father had taught her. She felt the wind, noted the slight breeze from the east. She adjusted her aim minutely, then slowly exhaled half her breath and held it. The shot rang out across the range. "Perfect center mass," Jackson called out, surprise evident in his voice. "That's actually really good." Peterson's smirk faltered slightly. "Lucky shot." "Second target," Jackson announced. 400 meters, moving left to right. This was more challenging. Maria tracked the target through her scope, calculating its speed and trajectory. She led the target, accounting for bullet drop and travel time, and squeezed the trigger gently. Another perfect hit. "Holy shit," someone whispered. "Language," Jackson said automatically, but his attention was focused entirely on Maria now. "Third target, 600 meters, stationary, but you have to shoot from the elevated position." They moved to a platform about 20 feet high. The angle would affect the trajectory, requiring compensation for the downward shot. Maria had practiced this type of shooting before, but not often. She settled into position, made her calculations, and fired. Another perfect hit. The group had gone completely silent now. Even Peterson's cocky expression had been replaced by something closer to shock. "Fourth target," Jackson said, his voice now carrying a note of respect. 800 meters, moving target, elevated position, and ... He paused dramatically. "You have a 30-second time limit." This was getting serious. Maria could feel the pressure, but instead of making her nervous, it focused her mind even more sharply. This was what she had trained for her entire life. Found the target in her scope, a small silhouette moving erratically at extreme range. She tracked it, calculated wind speed and direction, accounted for bullet drop, and led the target based on its movement pattern. 20 seconds left. She controlled her breathing, found her natural respiratory pause, and squeezed the trigger. Target dropped. Jesus Christ, Peterson breathed. She actually hit it. Jackson was staring at Maria with new eyes. That was ... extraordinary. Most of our best shooters need multiple attempts at that target. What's the final target? Maria asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Jackson hesitated. The final target is our ultimate test. 1,000 meters. Moving wind compensation required, and you have to hit a target the size of a playing card. That's impossible, Peterson said. Nobody hits that target on their first try. Hal Williams himself only hits it about half the time. Jackson nodded. It's designed to be nearly impossible. Don't feel bad if you miss it. Your performance so far has been remarkable. Maria stood up and walked to the final shooting position. 1,000 meters was more than half a mile. At that distance, even the smallest miscalculation would send the bullet wide. The target was barely visible through the scope, but as she settled into position, Maria felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She could almost hear her father's voice. Trust yourself, Mia. You know what to do. She studied the target through her scope, watched the wind indicators, felt the air movement across her skin. She made her calculations, adjusted her aim, and prepared for the most important shot of her military career. The entire group held their breath as Maria's finger moved to the trigger. The shot echoed across the range like thunder. For a moment, nobody moved. The distant target was too far away to see clearly with the naked eye, and everyone waited for Jackson to check through his spotting scope. Jackson peered through the scope for what felt like an eternity. His expression changed from professional interest to disbelief, then to something close to amazement. Target down, he said quietly, then louder, perfect center hit. Playing card, target, completely destroyed. The silence that followed was deafening. Peterson's mouth hung open. The other soldiers exchanged glances of disbelief. Even Jackson looked like he was questioning what he had just witnessed. That's not possible, Peterson stammered. Nobody makes that shot on their first try. Nobody. Maria stood up, slowly, her heart still racing from the adrenaline, but her expression calm. I guess today was a first. Where the hell did you learn to shoot like that? Jackson asked, genuine curiosity replacing his earlier skepticism. My father taught me, Maria said simply. He was a Marine sniper in Vietnam. Your father. Jackson's eyes widened. What was his name? Sergeant Miguel Rodriguez, 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines. Jackson's face went pale. Miguel Rodriguez, the Miguel Rodriguez. Maria nodded, confused by Jackson's reaction. You knew him. Knew him, Rodriguez. Your father is a legend. He holds the record for the longest confirmed kill in Vietnam to 1,847 meters. They still teach his techniques at sniper school. Jackson shook his head in amazement. Why didn't you mention this before? Nobody asked, Maria replied, and I wanted to earn my place here based on my own skills, not my father's reputation. Peterson, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly found his voice again. Okay, so she can shoot. Big deal. Combat is about more than just marksmanship. It's about handling pressure, making decisions under fire, working as part of a team. Is that so? Maria turned to face him directly. What kind of pressure are you talking about, Private Peterson? Peterson's confidence returned with the attention of the group. Real combat pressure. Life and death situations. Not some controlled range exercise. You mean like the pressure I handled in Afghanistan? Maria asked quietly. The group went silent again. Peterson's smirk faltered. Afghanistan 2 tours, Maria said. First as a radio operator, second as a designated marksman. I've been in real combat, Peterson. I've had to make those life and death decisions you're talking about. Jackson was looking at Maria with new respect. You didn't mention combat experience in your introduction yesterday. Like I said, nobody asked. Maria's voice carried a slight edge now. But since we're discussing qualifications, maybe you'd like to know about the time my unit was pinned down by enemy fire outside Kandahar. I had to take out 3 insurgents at ranges between 400 and 600 meters while my squad mates were wounded and under fire. The story poured out of her words. She had never spoken to anyone outside of official debriefings. The memory was still vivid. The chaos, the fear, the weight of responsibility knowing that her teammates' lives depended on her accuracy. Didn't have time for multiple attempts or practice shots, she continued. 3 shots, 3 kills, and my squad made it home alive. That's the kind of pressure I've handled, Peterson. What's your experience? Peterson's face had gone red, but he couldn't seem to find words to respond. Jackson stepped forward. Rodriguez, I owe you an apology. We all do. Your performance today was exceptional, but more than that, you've served with honor in combat. That deserves our respect. Damn right it does, came a new voice from behind them. Everyone turned to see Sergeant Major Williams approaching, but his usual stern expression had been replaced by something different. Behind him walked an older man in civilian clothes. Someone Maria recognized immediately, Colonel Martinez, Maria said, surprised to see her former commanding officer from Afghanistan. Hello Maria, Colonel Martinez smiled. I heard you were starting at Fort Braxton today. Thought I'd stop by and see how you were settling in. Williams looked confused. You know Rodriguez, sir? No, her. Williams, this woman saved my life, and the lives of 12 other soldiers in Afghanistan. I put her in for a Bronze Star for her actions that day. The revelation hit the group like a physical blow. Bronze Star recipients were rare, and the medal was only awarded for heroic or meritorious achievement in a combat zone. Peterson looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. Martinez continued. Maria Rodriguez is one of the finest soldiers I've ever had the privilege to serve with. Her marksmanship skills are legendary. But more importantly, she has the courage and judgment that make the difference between life and death in combat. Williams stepped forward. His entire demeanor changed. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, I owe you a sincere apology. I made assumptions based on based on prejudices that have no place in the modern military. Maria nodded, accepting the apology with grace. We all make assumptions, Sergeant Major. What matters is what we do when we learn we're wrong. Martinez clapped Williams on the shoulder. Williams, you've got a real asset here. Maria doesn't just shoot well, she thinks strategically, stays calm under pressure, and inspires confidence in her teammates. You'd be wise to utilize her skills fully. Absolutely, sir, Williams replied. Rodriguez, I'd like to discuss having you assist with our advanced marksmanship training program. We could use someone with your experience and abilities. Maria felt a surge of satisfaction, but kept her expression professional. I'd be honored to contribute, Sergeant Major. As the group began to disperse, Peterson lingered behind. He approached Maria hesitantly. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, he said quietly. I was way out of line earlier. I said some things that were disrespectful and wrong. I'm sorry. Maria studied his face, seeing genuine remorse there. Apology accepted, Peterson, but let me give you some advice in combat. The person next to you might be the one who saves your life. Gender, race, background, none of that matters when bullets start flying. What matters is skill, courage, and dedication to the mission. Peterson nodded seriously. I'll remember that, Staff Sergeant. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the range, Maria reflected on the day's events. She had come to Fort Braxton expecting to face skepticism and doubt. Instead, she had found an opportunity to not only prove her capabilities, but to educate others about the value of looking beyond surface assumptions. Her father would have been proud. 3 weeks had passed since Maria's remarkable demonstration on the shooting range, and life at Fort Braxton had settled into a new rhythm. She had been assigned to assist with the advanced marksmanship program, working alongside Jackson to train the next generation of military marksmen. The respect she had earned that first day had only grown as soldiers witnessed her teaching abilities and tactical knowledge. But on this particular Tuesday morning, everything changed. Maria was in the middle of instructing a group of junior soldiers on wind compensation techniques when Sergeant Major Williams approached with an urgent expression. Rodriguez, I need you in the briefing room immediately, he said quietly. Yes, sir. Maria handed her training materials to Jackson and followed Williams to the main building. Inside the briefing room, she found Colonel Martinez waiting along with 2 people she didn't recognize, a woman in civilian clothes with the bearing of intelligence personnel, and a man in combat fatigues with Special Forces insignia. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, Martinez began. I'd like you to meet Agent Sarah Thompson from the D and Captain James Mitchell from Special Forces. We have a situation that requires your particular expertise. Maria took a seat, her mind already racing. This felt like more than a routine assignment. Agent Thompson leaned forward. Staff Sergeant, we have a hostage situation that's developed in the mountains about 60 miles from here. A group of armed drug dealers has taken a family hostage in their remote cabin. The terrain and circumstances make it impossible for our standard tactical teams to get close enough for a safe rescue. Captain Mitchell opened a map on the table. The cabin is situated on a ridge with clear fields of fire in all directions. The suspects have high-powered rifles and have already fired warning shots at our perimeter teams. Any conventional approach would put the hostages at extreme risk. What's the composition of the hostage situation? Maria asked, studying the map. A family of 4, Thompson replied. Parents in their 40s, 2 children aged 8 and 12. The suspects are holding them while they negotiate for safe passage to Mexico. But our intelligence suggests they have no intention of releasing the hostages alive, regardless of what deal we might make. Martinez pointed to a specific location. On the map, there's a position here, approximately 1,200 meters from the cabin, that would provide a clear line of sight, but it's an extremely difficult shot, uphill, through mountain air with unpredictable wind patterns. Maria felt her pulse quicken. This was exactly the kind of situation she had trained for her entire career. What's the timeline? The suspects have given us until sunset, Thompson said. That's approximately 4 hours. After that, they've threatened to kill 1 hostage every hour until we provide them with transportation. Captain Mitchell leaned back in his chair. Rodriguez, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is one of the most challenging shots anyone could be asked to make. The distance, the angle, the stakes, everything about this mission is at the extreme edge of what's possible. We've consulted with every expert marksman available, Williams added. The consensus is that this shot requires not just exceptional skill, but also the kind of calm judgment that comes from combat experience. Your name came up immediately. Maria studied the topographical map, noting elevation changes, potential wind patterns, and sight lines. Her mind automatically began calculating the variables involved in such a shot. How many suspects? She asked. 3 confirmed, Thompson replied. Our surveillance shows one always remains visible through the cabin's main window, watching out. Perimeter, that's your target. The other 2 are inside with the hostages. Once the first suspect is neutralized, how quickly can the tactical team move in? Mitchell consulted his notes. We have a team positioned 400 meters out. They can reach the cabin in under 2 minutes once you take the shot. But Rodriguez, understand if you miss or if the shot doesn't immediately neutralize the target, those hostages will likely be killed before we can reach them. The weight of responsibility settled on Maria's shoulders like a heavy cloak, for innocent lives depended on her ability to make a shot that would challenge even the most experienced snipers. I'll need to see the position, she said. I want to assess wind conditions, sight lines, and elevation personally. Of course, Martinez nodded. We have a helicopter standing by. But Rodriguez, I need to ask, are you comfortable taking this assignment? No one would question your decision if you feel it's beyond your capabilities. Maria thought of the family trapped in that cabin, of the children who were probably terrified and confused. She thought of her father, of all the training that had brought her to this moment. I'll take the shot, she said firmly. An hour later, Maria found herself lying prone on a rocky outcrop high in the North Carolina mountains, her rifle trained on a distant cabin that looked no bigger than a matchbox through her scope. The elevation was nearly 800 feet higher than her position, making the shot even more complex. Captain Mitchell lay beside her with a spotting scope, providing wind readings and target information. Wind is variable, coming from the northwest. At 8 to 12 miles per hour, temperature is dropping as we get closer to sunset. Maria adjusted her scope settings, accounting for the uphill trajectory and air density changes due to altitude. At 1,200 meters, the slightest miscalculation would send her bullet wide of the target. Target is visible in the window, Mitchell reported. Male, approximately 6 feet tall, armed with what appears to be an AK-47. He's been maintaining the same position for the past 20 minutes. Through her scope, Maria could just make out the figure in the cabin window. It was a tiny silhouette at this distance, barely distinguishable as human, but she forced herself to focus on the technical aspects of the shot rather than dwelling on the human element. Rodriguez, came Williams' voice through her radio. Latest intelligence shows the suspects are getting agitated. They've moved up their timeline. You have approximately 90 minutes before they follow through on their threats. Maria took a deep breath and settled deeper into her shooting position. This was it. The moment everything in her career had been building toward. All the training, all the doubts she had faced, all the times she had proven herself had led to this single shot. She began her pre-shot routine, the same process her father had taught her decades ago. Breathe, observe, calculate, focus. The afternoon sun was casting long shadows across the mountain valley, and Maria knew she would only have one chance to bring this family home safely. Maria lay motionless on the rocky outcrop, her breathing steady and controlled. The rifle felt like an extension of her body, perfectly balanced and familiar despite the enormous pressure of the moment. Through her scope she watched the distant cabin where 4 innocent lives hung in the balance. Rodriguez, we're getting reports that the suspects are becoming increasingly agitated. William's voice crackled through her earpiece. Local law enforcement tried to establish communication again, and the lead suspect fired several warning shots. We may be running out of time. Captain Mitchell, lying beside her with his spotting scope, provided a constant stream of environmental data. Wind has shifted slightly, now coming from the west-northwest at 10 to 14 miles per hour. Gusts are inconsistent. Temperature continuing to drop. Maria made minute adjustments to her scope, calculating bullet drop, wind drift, and the challenging uphill trajectory. At 1,200 meters, shooting uphill to an elevated target, every variable became magnified. A miscalculation of even a few inches would mean missing the target entirely. Target's still visible in the main window, Mitchell reported. He's moved closer to the glass. I can see him more clearly now. Through her scope, Maria could make out more detail of the suspect, who was pacing back and forth in front of the window, occasionally turning to presumably communicate with his accomplices inside. She would need to time her shot for when he paused. In the optimal position, Rodriguez, came Agent Thompson's voice through the radio. We've managed to get a phone line established with the cabin. The lead suspect is demanding immediate transportation and threatening to begin executing hostages in 30 minutes if his demands aren't met. 30 minutes. Maria felt her heart rate increase slightly, but she controlled it with her breathing. Technique pressure was nothing new to her. In Afghanistan, she had made critical shots with enemy fire incoming and wounded teammates, depending on her accuracy. Talk to me about the family, Maria said quietly into her radio. The parents are Tom and Jennifer Walsh, Thompson replied. Their children are Emma, age 12, and Michael, age 8. Tom is a local park ranger. Jennifer teaches at the elementary school. They were at their cabin for a family weekend when the suspects showed up looking for a place to hide after a drug deal went bad. Maria closed her eyes for a moment, visualizing those children going home safely to their normal lives. When she opened them again, her resolve had crystallized into absolute focus. Mitchell, I need you to track the target's movement pattern, she said. How long does he pause at the window, and what's his timing? Mitchell observed through his spotting scope for several minutes. He's pacing in roughly a 15-foot pattern, spends about 4 to 6 seconds at the window each time, then turns away for 8 to 10 seconds. Pretty consistent pattern. Copy that. Maria began timing the pattern herself, synchronizing her observations with Mitchell's data. She would have only a few seconds to identify the target, confirm her aim point, and take the shot. Rodriguez, this is Colonel Martinez. I want you to know that regardless of the outcome, you've already shown exceptional courage by taking this assignment. No one could ask for more. Thank you, sir, Maria replied. But those kids are going home to their parents tonight. She settled deeper into her shooting position, feeling the cold mountain rock beneath her body. The afternoon light was beginning to fade, creating shadows that would make target identification even more challenging. Target is moving to the window, Mitchell called out. He's in position, now he's turning away. Maria tracked the pattern through her scope, her finger resting lightly on the trigger. She would need to anticipate the exact moment when the target would be in optimal position. Wind is gusting, Mitchell reported. 12 to 16 miles per hour, west-northwest. Maria adjusted her aim point slightly to compensate for the stronger wind. At this distance, the bullet would be in flight for nearly 2 seconds, giving the wind plenty of time to affect its trajectory. Target moving to window again, Mitchell said. In position in 3.2.1. Now. Maria could see the suspect clearly in her scope, but something made her hesitate. His position wasn't quite optimal. He was partially obscured by the window frame. Holding, she said quietly. Good call, Mitchell agreed. Better position coming up. They waited through another cycle. Maria controlled her breathing, keeping her heart rate steady. This was the moment when mental discipline became as important as marksmanship skill. Rodriguez, came William's voice. We're getting reports of raised voices from inside the cabin. Sounds like an argument between the suspects. They may be preparing to follow through on their threats. Understood, Maria replied, her voice calm despite the mounting pressure. Target approaching window, Mitchell called. This looks like a better position. In 3.2.1. Now. Through her scope, Maria could see the suspect clearly. Positioned in the center of the window, she made her final windage adjustment, found her natural respiratory pause, and began to squeeze the trigger with steady, controlled pressure. Time seemed to slow down. She could feel her heartbeat, hear the mountain wind, sense the weight of responsibility for 4 innocent lives. But all of that faded into background noise as her training took over. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Trust yourself, Mia. You know what to do." The rifle fired. For what felt like an eternity, Maria maintained her position, watching through the scope as the bullet traveled across the mountain valley. At 1,200 meters, there would be a noticeable delay before impact. "Hit," Mitchell called out suddenly. "Clean hit. Target down. Tactical team, go, go, go." Williams' voice commanded over the radio. Through her scope, Maria could see the tactical team moving rapidly toward the cabin. 2 minutes had never felt so long. "Teamers at the cabin," came the report. "Suspects 2 and 3 surrendering. Hostages are secure and unharmed. All 4 family members are safe." Maria finally allowed herself to exhale fully and lower her rifle. Around her she could hear voices of congratulation and relief coming through the radio. But all she could think about was those children who would be sleeping in their own beds tonight, instead of becoming Rodriguez. Colonel Martinez's voice came through clearly. "That was extraordinary shooting. 1 shot, 1,200 meters, uphill, variable wind conditions, and you made it look routine." "Just doing my job, sir," Maria replied, but she couldn't keep the satisfaction out of her voice. As the rescue helicopters arrived at the cabin and the Walsh family was safely evacuated, Maria began the process of securing her equipment. The mission was over, but she knew this moment would define the rest of her career. Captain Mitchell clapped her on the shoulder. "Rodriguez, I've worked with some of the best snipers in the military, and I've never seen anything like that shot. You've got a gift." "My father always said that shooting was about more than just technical skill," Maria replied. "It's about having the right reasons to pull the trigger." Later that evening, back at Fort Braxton, Maria found herself in Sergeant Major Williams' office. The events of the day had spread throughout the base, and she had been receiving congratulations from soldiers who had previously doubted her abilities. "Rodriguez," Williams said, "I've been in the military for 23 years, and I've never seen a more perfect example of why we can't judge a soldier's capabilities based on anything other than their performance and character." "Thank you, sir." "I owe you more than thanks," Williams continued. "I owe you an acknowledgement that my initial prejudices were not only wrong, but potentially harmful to military readiness. A soldier like you makes every unit stronger." Maria nodded, accepting the apology with the same grace she had shown weeks earlier. "There's something else," Williams said. "I've been asked to recommend someone for a new position, lead instructor for the Army's Advanced Sniper School at Fort Benning. It's a career-defining assignment." Maria's eyes widened. Fort Benning's sniper school was the pinnacle of military marksmanship training. "The job is yours if you want it," Williams continued. "After today's performance, I can't think of anyone more qualified." As Maria walked back to her barracks that night, she thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. From a young girl learning to shoot in her father's backyard, to a combat veteran, to the soldier who had made an impossible shot to save a family's life. She thought about Private Peterson, who had approached her earlier to express his genuine respect and request training advice. She thought about the other female soldiers who would follow in her footsteps, and how her success might open doors that had previously been closed. Most of all, she thought about her father and how proud he would have been to see his daughter not just excel as a marksman, but use those skills to protect innocent lives. The mocking and doubt she had faced seemed like ancient history now. Today she had proven that excellence recognizes no gender, no background, no preconceptions. Today she had shown that when lives hang in the balance, all that matters is skill, courage, and the determination to succeed. As she reached her barracks, Maria smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to serve, and new chances to prove that the best soldiers are those who combine technical expertise with unwavering dedication to protecting others. The girl who had been mocked for requesting a chance to shoot had become the soldier everyone looked up to, and this was only the beginning of her story.